everyone. I am Sarah Ramaya, Curriculum Design Specialist at ASRM. Welcome to an interactive webinar on how to improve fertility outcomes right in the kitchen. Our presenters are Judy Simon and Angela Thayer. Judy practices as a registered dietitian nutritionist and adjunct faculty at the University of Washington. She also owns a private practice, Mind Body Nutrition, specializing in reproductive nutrition. She co-developed the Food for Fertility program with Dr. Angela Thayer and is recognized as a fellow of the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics and as a national leader in the area of fertility and nutrition. Dr. Angela Thayer is a board certified in reproductive endocrinology and infertility, obstetrics and gynecology, and lifestyle medicine, and is one of the founding partners of Seattle Reproductive Medicine. She is the medical director for both the Food for Fertility program and the PCOS Wellness program at ASRM. Before we begin, please note this webinar was developed by the American Society for Reproductive Medicine as an educational resource and service to its members and other reproductive professionals. While this webinar reflects the views of the panelists, it is not intended to be the only approved standard of practice or to dictate an exclusive course of treatment. Members should always use their best judgment in determining a course of action and be guided by the needs of the individual patient, available resources, and institutional or clinical practice limitations. To optimize your webinar experience, please mute your mics and close your camera. If you hover over the ellipsis or the three dots on your tile, choose the Hide Non-Video Participants. Remember, all attendees will be muted except the presenters. Time at the end of the presentation will be reserved for questions. However, during the cooking demonstration, Judy Simon, our panelist, will be taking questions. So please type a question in the chat window at any time. We will read as many selected questions as possible. A recording of this webinar will be archived on the ASRM website in the coming weeks. Please watch your email for notification. I will now turn the presentation over to our panelists.
Thank you so much, Sarah. It's an honor to be invited to speak and present here for ASRM. And we also want to thank the Nutrition SIG for inviting us as well. And we are really excited to share what we do every day with our patients, which is help them improve their fertility outcomes by eating better. So we're going to show you some kitchen techniques and a good recipe today and share why this is important. So Judy, next slide. So why do we talk about nutrition for our patients? There are quite a few reasons. Obviously, our patients are frequently young and healthy, and we don't always think about their nutrition, but we know that a lot of them potentially are overweight, some of them are underweight, but obesity and being overweight in the United States has become an epidemic. And so it certainly is affecting all of us in our fertility practices. We know that certain diagnoses, such as PCOS and endometriosis, can be improved by diet, potentially weight loss for PCOS. We're going to talk about that. And in the preconception window, all individuals, women and men, can improve their nutritional intake for optimum fertility. Next. So this is a slide that shows a graph from the NHANES data published on health.gov, and it really is talking about the intake of vegetables and fruits in the US population. And what you can notice is the blue lines is what we're supposed to be eating, and the orange lines are dots or the average intake for most Americans. So everybody of all ages, both women and men, falls short of the recommended intake of fruits and vegetables. You're supposed to have 5 a day, with 3 being vegetables and 2 being fruit at a minimum, and most people fall way short of that. In addition, 38% of people have prediabetes after age 20. So that was also discovered in this study. So eating a lack of fruits and vegetables can have a big impact. Next. So we ask our patients, what is in their diet? What are you guys eating every day? What do you eat, the female and male partner? And we recommend a plant-forward whole foods diet to reduce the risk of insulin resistance, central obesity, and chronic disease, and improve fertility, of course. But the typical American diet is not this plate. It is consistently having ultra-processed foods with low amounts of fiber and vegetables in it. Next. There was a lovely study that was performed as part of the Earth Study Group, and this looked at 357 couples undergoing IVF cycles. And what they did was they looked at the dietary patterns. So when they looked at what kind of diet people were following, did they follow a pro-fertility diet, Mediterranean diet, original fertility diet, or the alternate healthy eating index 2010, which is meant to prevent chronic disease? And what they found, next slide, is that the couples who followed the pro-fertility diet had the higher odds of implantation, clinical pregnancy, and live birth in their IVF cycles. So what is a pro-fertility diet? Well, I've listed here the main aspects. So low pesticide fruits and vegetables, whole grains, seafood, dairy, soy, supplemental folic acid, B12, and vitamin D. So this might mean buying at a farmer's market. This might mean buying organic at your local grocery store, washing your produce when you get it home, and paying attention to some of these other food groups as well. Next. What about PCOS? Well, everybody's aware of the international guidelines that came out in 2018, and there were some general recommendations that came out. They did look at 4 different studies, and really they didn't have any specific single conclusion other than they recommended that there was a low intake of processed foods and a higher intake of unprocessed whole foods. And they recommended high fiber and dark leafy greens, cruciferous vegetables, berries, beans, lentils, or legumes, olive oil, and full-fat dairy. These are the typical recommendations that were consistent across different diets that helped women with PCOS. Next. When we talk to our patients, though, that kind of laundry list is really hard for somebody to internalize. They like to have or think about a standard diet that's out there. And so we will frequently talk to them about the kind of classic diets that people are familiar with. So a vegetarian diet, a Mediterranean diet, the DASH diet, which is low sodium, or a low glycemic index diet. These are all absolutely fine diets for somebody with PCOS to follow. Next. What about weight loss? So when we're talking about improving diets, we don't really talk about weight loss as a goal. We talk about behavior change and we talk about improving nutrition. We do, however, see that lots of women lose weight when they change their diet. So when they eat more vegetables, eat more fiber, when we're adding more of the good stuff, they tend to eliminate some of the ultra-processed foods. And just cooking at home will help people eat better and eventually lose weight. Go ahead and click through the next 3 bullet points. So, however, there are some people where they do need to lose weight. So certainly if weight loss is a goal for a patient because they have anovulatory PCOS and they're trying to lose a little bit of weight to try to start ovulating again, or maybe they have to reach a certain BMI level for a specific clinic to be able to have an egg retrieval there, then they do have a weight loss goal, and we recommend that they should work with a dietitian, somebody who can help give them a supervised energy reduction plan in a classic still healthy eating pattern. Next. So what about home cooking? Why is this so good, and why do we just talk about this as a thing to start with? It's easy. Everybody knows what cooking is at home. When you cook at home, you tend to use better ingredients. No, you're not adding false chemical additives to your foods. You typically are going to use less sugar, salt, and fat. You typically start with a smaller portion. Let it digest, go for seconds if you're still hungry. So you overall tend to consume less calories, and you tend to get more vegetables and fiber into your diet. Next. There have been a couple of studies that have looked at the benefits of home-cooked meals. This one was done in the UK, and this was a large group of people where they said, how good is it if you eat more meals at home? So next slide. What they looked at was that if people ate 5 or more meals at home, which doesn't seem like that many, but they had 7,000 people in that group, they tended to have a better adherence to the DASH and Mediterranean diet. They ate more fruits and vegetables. They had higher levels of plasma vitamin C, and they were 28% less likely to be overweight or have excess fat. So really a notable difference in this large UK study. Next. In the US, we have a similar study. This was published in 2016. 2 large cohorts looked at meals prepared at home and the risk of type 2 diabetes. So the 2 groups were the Nurses' Health Study, which looked at 58,000 women, and the Health Professionals Follow-Up Study, which looked at 41,000 men, and they looked at the number of meals prepared at home. And what they found was eating 11 to 14 meals at home, those people, not patients, had a 14% lower risk of developing type 2 diabetes over time, and they had less weight gain over time compared to the group that had the fewest meals prepared at home. So just eating at home, cooking your own meals can have a definite impact. Next slide, please. Did we skip one? Okay, so yeah, there are barriers, however, that we have to work to overcome. So patients are easily, it's easy to go for the convenience for all of us. Convenience foods are convenient. It's easy to order out or go to a restaurant. It takes knowledge and skills. You need to shop, you need to plan, you need to have the time. And so a lot of these things are barriers to home cooking. People, feel like they don't want to spend the money on all the produce and other things that will really improve their diet. So we really have to do a good job to convince them. Next. The way we do this is we have gotten into culinary medicine, and that involves teaching them culinary skills. So number 1 on this list is meal planning. Planning is the key to getting your tasks done. It's, following a behavior. If you set a plan and an intention on Sunday, you can plan a couple meals for the week. You can do your shopping. You then can meal prep and have some meals. So we teach each of these skills in our classes, and we talk to our patients about it. We talk about mise en place, which I've done today, which is have everything all laid out. So when I cook, it's a very efficient process. Batch cooking means we're going to cook bigger portions than we're going to eat in one meal. So we're going to have leftovers that we can either repurpose into a second meal, or we can freeze something for later. We can eat leftovers the next day for lunch or dinner. And then, of course, all of these meals and plans can be tailored to individual food preferences, as they should. And then the goal is just to have our patients make small changes over time. One new recipe, one new food group, just one little thing every week, and you build on that over time. Next. So Dr. Pollack has done a culinary coaching program and reported it. This was published in 2017. So there were a group of patients who were all overweight or obese and had cardiovascular risk factors. They were set up to meet with a culinary coach for 12 30-minute sessions. During these sessions, they used motivational interviewing, they discussed challenges and obstacles, they set goals with their patients, and they shared resources online. So they really kind of went through some of these culinary coaching skills and showed them recipes how to eat well. What they found was everybody, all of the participants, showed improved cooking confidence, improved health outcomes. They all lost weight. And 6 months later, they were all still doing it. So they really had learned behavior change and habits that they kept with them for 6 months. So that's our goal too with our patients, is that not only do they start cooking more and eating better as they're preparing for pregnancy, but they continue that in pregnancy and beyond once they have kids. So now we're going to transition to the cooking portion. So I am going to ask Sarah to turn on my other camera, and I'm going to switch cameras as well.
Great. Thank you so much, Angela. And I'm really excited. This is actually, we have to thank Angela for the inspiration of the recipe that she is going to be preparing for us today. It's a summer grain bowl with lemon tahini dressing. And one thing that we aim to do with the patients, the participants in our classes, is we try to work with seasonal foods. We try to keep them in season. So we've done many different bowls during the year, and they're always a hit. People love them because they have leftovers or lunches the next day. And so we were working on this to come up with what would be some nice seasonal vegetables that we could feature. And we are also pretty strong in the area of plant food. So we're going to go with a plant protein today. Angela, let me know when you feel ready in the kitchen and we'll get started.
Okay, yeah, I think I'm good. So what we're going to do here, I've got 2 cameras set up. And so one is over my cutting board here as I do some prep, and the other one's a little bit back set at a distance. So I believe the recipe was dropped in the chat for you guys, so you can take a look and follow along. But basically, a couple things to get started. One is the Tempeh Marinade. I started that ahead of time. So here's our recipe that you guys will have. And all right, I'll let you guys look at that on your own. And so what I've done is I marinated the tempeh, and I'm going to go ahead and put that in the oven right now. I have my oven preheated to 400, and I've also completed setting out the broccoli. So the broccoli here I've put on parchment paper. I have mixed it with just olive oil and salt, and I'm going to go ahead and put this in the oven as well, and I'll show you the tempeh.
And something to remember when you're doing cooking demonstrations, Angela and I are working from our own home kitchens. We've learned you have to communicate very well. So when we
There's the
start
tempeh.
Oh, there it is. Remember to preheat your oven, which you've done, right, Angela?
Yes, my oven is ready to go.
Okay.
And the other thing I'm going to do, Judy's going to start talking to you all about the benefits of soy and tempeh. And while she's doing that, my next thing is I'm going to start rinsing the quinoa, because that has to go stovetop and boil for 15 minutes. So Judy's setting some timers for me for 10 minutes to check and mix the tempeh, and then again at 20 minutes. And I'm going to go ahead and start my water boiling here and rinse my quinoa.
Okay. And Angela, let us know when you put the quinoa in so that I can, at that time we're going. So we always used to do these classes live, but last year we learned to be creative just like everyone else and go virtual. And if you haven't ever had, oh, here's our quinoa. Are we ready?
That's the quinoa. I do have a rainbow quinoa. Wonderful. And I have a fine sieve, and so I'm going to be rinsing this at the sink. So I'll step off.
Okay. And the reason you want to rinse quinoa, if you've never used it, there's a little bit of a very thin kind of a film on quinoa, and Mother Nature does that to stop the birds from eating it. Quinoa, although it looks like a grain, it's kind of a super cereal that's more from Central American and South American countries. It's gotten to be very popular here over the last decade or so. And the reason we like to use it is it tastes delicious. It's very quick to cook. This is once she gets it boiling, it simmers in 15 to 20 minutes. It's quicker than rice and has more benefits. We figure about a half a cup of serving for our bowls of the quinoa. So right there, you're going to get 4 grams of protein and almost 3 grams of fiber. It is loaded with antioxidants, lots of nutrients such as folate, other micronutrients. It's low glycemic, and we are trying to really highlight that in our recipes because so many of our patients do have insulin resistance. So that quinoa is often a new grain, and people like it once they try it, and it's quick and easy. So we like to use it in our classes.
We do throw in a dash of salt here.
Yes, a little salt in the water would be good. But otherwise, that quinoa, we're just going to serve it plain because there's so many other flavors in the bowl that we don't want to over compete. So that's going to work out well. And you've got that simmering now, and I'll set.
Yep, that's going to simmer. So you can set that for maybe 14 minutes and we'll check on it.
Got it.
And then, yeah, Judy, if you want to go back and talk about the tempeh.
Yes. So what is tempeh? Tempeh is basically, I can show you a package of it, what it would look like if you bought it at the store. It is fermented tofu. So think of tofu more like a cake, okay? So it's much denser. And they're cultured soybeans. I happen to have a package here where sometimes they add 3-grain. This is a tempeh 3-grain. So the grains in mine are millet, brown rice, and barley. Angela, the one you use is just a straight tempeh. Is that correct? The one
Right. The one I used today was Light Life. I mean, it happens to be the one my local grocery store has. 18 grams of protein per serving, and it is just really just the pure tempeh, just the organic side grains that are cultured.
Have any grains. And tempeh is the plant protein, which is densest in plant protein that has the most protein, even more than tofu, even more than beans. And it also provides a lot of nutrients. People are surprised that it has iron, calcium, things that you think only come from animal foods actually come from plant foods. It's got prebiotics, and we like it because it's so versatile. So putting it in a marinade is going to give it a little bit of a sort of an Asian flavor. Would you say the ginger, garlic is a really nice flavor? Some places sell already flavored, but we're kind of going with the natural and we're adding our own.
And you can also do the same marinade on with tofu, right?
Absolutely.
So people always complain that tofu has no flavor. It really doesn't have much flavor. So you probably do want to give that a marinade as well. And you can bake it or pan fry it or stir fry it. Now I'm grating some carrots. I have the carrots, the radishes to slice, and the purple cabbage. On this purple cabbage, one thing we forgot to mention on the recipe is that it has a core. So I'm going to cut the core out before I grate the cabbage.
And you could use, if you didn't have purple available, you could use the green. The benefits of the purple is you get some extra antioxidants, those anthocyanins that come in to give it the purple color. We love cabbage for all the fiber, all the antioxidants, all its anti-inflammatory properties. So we're packing all your servings for the day in one meal, which is really neat. There we go. Angela has excellent knife skills as part of her culinary training. So I don't know, did it help being a surgeon first? I'm sort of curious.
Well, I don't know, perhaps, but I've also taken specific knife skills classes, which helps. And we do emphasize that because you have to be efficient when you're cutting lots of vegetables. Yeah. And so we do encourage our students, participants, and patients to do a knife skills class, which now you can do on YouTube, or you can do it locally. So anyway, so I'm grating, I'm just using a standard box grater here. Judy said, she might end up using her food processor. So you can use different gadgets to do the same work in different ways. So I just want to have some grated purple cabbage to go in the bowl. It's going to look really pretty and add all those nutrients that Judy talked about. And then Judy, did you talk about the carrots?
Not yet. So of course, carrots are easy and accessible for everyone. And we encourage them to get the whole fresh carrots. And honestly, I just wash them. I think we scrape them to be pretty, but it's okay. You just have to wash them and cut off the ends. So carrots, an excellent source of beta carotene. And there's our pretty cabbage, and those flavors really go together nicely. One thing I really love about this bowl, and one of the secrets is to cook some of your vegetables, like the roasted broccoli, and then to have some raw. And it really gives the palate nice variety of flavors, textures that really seem to complement each other. Oh, and then we'll have,
Oh, the other thing I've done ahead of time, which you want to think about doing, is take any greens you have that you're going to use for your bowl. So bowls have the classic combo of some greens, a grain, a protein, and then we use the combo of the roasted or the warm and the raw vegetables. So I have already prepped my lettuce. I took some leaves and what I had in my refrigerator and I tore them up and I've rinsed them and I have them drying. So that's already going. So you would want to get that going as well.
And it's good when you're teaching a class is let your students know ahead of time what amount of prep do you want them to do? Because it's really hard if you're teaching a class of 15 and some people are just taking the ingredients out and other people have them all ready. What are you going to do with that core, Angela? It's still healthy.
Oh, what would you do with it, Judy?
I don't know. Honestly, I would probably just eat it because I love cabbage. Seriously, I kind of use my broccoli stems because they still have nutrition and fiber. They're just not going to be quite the same texture. I could see leaving it out, but it's okay to eat them.
Yeah. Yeah, I have not tried it. Maybe I'll go have a crunchy bit of cabbage core after this class. But yeah, I haven't. I can't say I probably would have just gone in my compost, but now
Yeah, no, you can eat
try it.
Radishes. We love radishes. Why? They're spicy. They're almost no calories. They're all fiber. They do have some nutrients in them, but they add a nice spice. We made a bowl in the winter or in the fall, spring in our class. We actually roasted. Remember, we roasted what they call the Easter radishes, all different colors. We cut them in half, a little bit of olive oil. The flavor changes completely. A more rooty flavor, less spicy. Our patients love them, and some of them now eat them instead of potatoes. They've been eating roasted radishes.
Oh, that's so great.
And
yeah, they're really different roasted versus raw. Same thing with beets, you know. So people think about roasting beets, which is great. They taste lovely when they're roasted, but you can also eat them raw. You can shred them and put them on a salad. So we've done that before as well. We're not doing that today, but that's something else to consider.
Angela, it's our 10-minute mark to look at your tempeh.
Okay.
And flip it over and
All
then
right.
see how our broccoli's doing. You know, everyone's stove is a little different. So you get down to the minutes, like when we're roasting broccoli, 3 people, you know, might be have their broccoli done. So we always do a little halfway point to check when they're browning things, because some people's cookware is different than others, or ovens are different, they're using convection. So you always have to consider when you're working with a group, have them check in a little bit earlier. And so far over this last year, I don't think anyone's burnt anything. We've been pretty lucky.
It's good. Yeah. And you're always waiting for somebody to kind of catch up. But this is looking great. It's browning nicely. Give you guys a sneak peek here.
Oh, good.
I'm going to put it back in. It probably only needs about 5 more minutes.
Okay, I'll give it 5 minutes. And your broccoli is going to need a little more time.
Yep, the broccoli needs a little more.
A little tip on the broccoli, I tend to tell people when they cut it to have a flat side. So you can, you know, roast it on one side and then flip it over, and that tends to work a little bit easier. But if you notice, Angela left spaces between the broccoli. You want to let your roasted vegetables have a little room, and then they'll caramelize on either side. Here comes.
That's right.
What are you working on now?
So now I'm going to start to do, there's just a couple things left. You know, it's a fast recipe. There's some cooking time, but we're going to start to do the lemon tahini drizzle. So I'm going to get the garlic ready. Now you can add more or less garlic depending on how you like it and how big your cloves are. But we made enough, this dressing is enough to last you for about a cup. It should make about a cup of dressing. And so you can use this on any salad or with any veggies that you want besides the bowl. So it's great.
Now, some people will use things like jarred crushed garlic, and that can work. You know, whatever convenient things they like to do. This recipe that Angela developed happens to be, not any reason, but it happens to be gluten-free and dairy-free. But you will get questions from people. I have a food allergy or intolerance. So sending out recipes ahead of time makes it easy. Always put in, let us know if you need a substitution. Or sometimes someone just hates a certain food and they don't even want to try it. So we'll just say, hey, here's something else you can do. So lucky for us, this wasn't any issue if anyone had any trouble with gluten or dairy. But we always give them something else that they can change it up.
That's right. And we have a lot of kitchen gadgets because we spend a lot of time in the kitchen, but I love my garlic press. I think Judy has one as well. Yeah. It's a real time saver but if you don't have one, you can just mince the garlic. It's just fine. And then I'm gonna start squeezing my lemon into a separate bowl here. And I have a lemon press here. How's our quinoa timer going?
We have a few more minutes on quinoa,
Okay.
and we'll check that. In lemons, it's hard to tell people's size. So when you're making something like a dressing, I really like when we say how many tablespoons you want to end up with. Some people buy teeny little lemons, some buy larger ones, but I do find that people appreciate more specific quantities because they don't want to run short when they're making a recipe.
Right. And lemons are something to always keep in your kitchen. It's just a nice add to have that splash of brightness when you're when you need a little acid. So it's good to add. So I sometimes I'll just buy a few, sometimes I'll buy a bag.
Great.
Just to keep, because you never know how much juice they're going to make. And so we're going for what, 6 tablespoons, 4 or 6?
We
6
have
tablespoons.
For the dressing, yeah, it's 4 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil, 4 tablespoons of tahini, 6 tablespoons of lemon juice.
Okay.
And tahini works out really nice. You'll see in a minute because it's so creamy. It's just sesame seeds. And that way you're avoiding dairy. You're using a seed, which is really healthy. And this goes together lovely with the olive oil. Just the flavors all come together. It's kind of Mediterranean meets Asian, right? With our marinade and our
right.
We're joining cultures in our food.
Yeah, and we definitely explore lots of cultures and culinary traditions, because the thing about a plant-based whole food diet is you can eat in whatever style you want. You can be Mediterranean, it can be Asian, it can be Latin American. So whatever way, whatever cuisine you want, you can eat healthy foods.
Okay, just one seed. We can all see that one lemon seed in there.
This one?
Yeah, do you see the seed in the lemon juice? Is that a seed?
Oh yeah, I'll have to get a spoon here.
I know. You can't dip your finger in like you can at home, right? It's always when you're doing it. Oh, that looks great. I'm always worried about who's going to eat the lemon seed. Not that it would probably be so terrible, right?
There's a little piece of purple cabbage. Okay.
Okay. So you need your olive oil and tahini, right?
Yep. I don't think I'm quite at 6. I'm going to do a couple more here.
Okay. And then the timer's just going to go off for your both at the same time.
I took a peek at the quinoa. It definitely has more time to go.
Okay, a few more minutes?
Yeah, it definitely has still a layer of water on the top.
Okay, so I'll watch that for time.
So maybe give me another 3 minutes and let me look again.
And then when you're ready, check your tempeh.
So the quinoa, Judy and I were talking about that. Some people recommend like a 1.5 to 1 ratio of water to quinoa. Other people do 2 to 1. So we kind of split the difference, but that's going to affect your cooking time.
Right. And I tend to like it not to get too dried out. The beautiful thing about quinoa is when it's done, you just fluff it with a fork and you're good to go. You can have it cold, you can eat it warm. And you may have some left over in this recipe. We portioned about 1/2 cup each. I think last time I made a bowl, I had extra quinoa and I just ate it in another meal. So extra virgin olive oil is preferred. It's the first press. You get more of the polyphenols, more of the antioxidant quality, and you get that nice fruity flavor in a good quality olive oil. So don't buy the huge ones, buy the smaller bottles of olive oil. So
right. Or you can get a big tin. I mean, it has to be dark, and then you can use squeeze bottles. So that's what I use frequently in the kitchen.
Yep. You don't want it to go rancid. So that looks really nice. And all you have left is the tahini. So don't forget your oven, Angela.
Okay. Oh, let me check on the broccoli here.
Yeah.
I'm going to pull that out and give that a mix if it's not done yet.
It's amazing how many meals we've cooked together and haven't seen each other since before COVID, right?
So with this broccoli, we're definitely going for a little bit of a browning and a crisping, right? It's what we want. So it's getting there. This probably needs another 5 minutes.
Okay. And
so I like the parchment because I can just, it's cool. I can pick it up and kind of toss it and then spread out the broccoli again.
Oh, good. Parchment paper is so nice to cook with. It's easy to clean your pan. Like Angela said, you can move things around with just touching the paper. I'm a big believer in using parchment paper. And if you're the one who does the dishes, it's also a nice, easy cleanup. There's some silicone liners, but I still like the parchment paper better for cooking. That seems to work out really well.
How's my extra minutes on my tempeh?
You should be checking.
Okay, yeah, because this is looking pretty good here. I'm going to pull the tempeh out.
Okay.
So let's go 5 more minutes. You know, these classes that we've been doing, it does help to have 2 people.
Yes,
it's
it does.
easy because then somebody can be talking, somebody can be cooking,
Yes.
and watching timers, and also paying attention to our class and where the participants are as they're going through as
Right.
well.
And we're usually asking them before we move on to the next step. We're seeing if anybody has questions. It always seems like there's somebody who's really speedy and someone who needs a little more help. So we like to help each other out. Something else you can do in a class setting that we've done is we actually put our participants in breakout rooms, just like they're in school. And we let them have a little time to discuss things in smaller group. And that way they can kind of feel like they're with their peers. Okay, it looks like tahini is ready.
So here's the tahini. I mean, there's a bunch of different brands.
Okay.
We use a lot, so I have a big container of it here from a Mediterranean store that's local in Seattle. But yeah, you can get this from most groceries or
Great, yeah.
online or a specialty store. And so
Yeah.
it's nice if you look here, you know, it can separate. You want to make sure you stir it. It's nice and smooth. This is a nice smooth consistency. So tahini is also used to make hummus. We make hummus all the time with our home cooked chickpeas, tahini, garlic, and salt. It's really easy. We love it. It's much better.
One. Yeah, we made a pumpkin one in the fall with pumpkin and sage hummus. It was amazing. Way better than store-bought. That was fun.
Yep.
Okay, so what are you going to do with the tahini? Just yours is nice and liquidy. If yours is thick, don't worry about it, because once you get it with all the ingredients, it all whisks together. Mine is much thicker than Angela's, and it worked out beautifully.
You're going to whisk it, and you're also going to add water to thin it out to the consistency of a dressing.
Okay, so you're adding 4 tablespoons of tahini, and then that's your last ingredient, except for the water, right?
I have to still add the 6 of the lemon juice, and then we're going to throw in right. We're going to throw in a pinch of the salt, and then the water for consistency.
Yep. Okay, that's looking good. So as I said before, tahini is just sesame seed paste. It's very common in Middle Eastern and Mediterranean dishes, and you can really get it at most grocery stores. And the reason you want to have some fat in your recipes is A, it adds flavor, okay? And this is how you absorb all those fat soluble vitamins, all that beta carotene and vitamin K and vitamin E. The way you absorb it is you have to have fat, since they're fat soluble vitamins. Okay, so now she's going to bring everything together, and you're so much gentler. I just dump it in. And you measuring out?
I didn't measure it, so I did pretty well here. I'm at about 5.5. Oh, I'm pretty close. Okay, so yeah, I juiced just enough lemons. So then I'm gonna go ahead and add. And you know, you do want to taste as you go, but I know I like salt in my dressing, so I'm going to add a little bit. We use Diamond Kosher salt most of the time here, which is a pretty light salt. The salts are different. So depending on what salt you use, you kind of want to know how that's going to flavor your food.
Angela, check your quinoa. I don't want you to burn it. We're excited to whisk, but we want to make sure we have everything done here.
It's getting there, yeah. So it is close. There's no water on the top now, but I can't see. Somehow, sometimes with quinoa, you get the little holes peeking through.
Yeah.
Right? I don't see those little holes yet.
Oh, okay. And then, yeah, you could turn it off in a minute. I just let it sit, and it'll kind of probably.
Okay, we'll just let it steam for another. So remind me to check it in a couple minutes.
Okay.
So we're going to whisk this up.
And see how it emulsifies? Having a little whisk is really handy. We try to keep the equipment to a minimum, but letting people know what they need is helpful too. So a small whisk. Glass measuring cups are good.
This is right now at 3/4 of a cup, a little over that. So I can add a little water to bring it up and get the right consistency.
Okay. Because once you
My broccoli timer.
yeah, broccoli, you've got a couple minutes.
Okay. So I'm starting to smell it. You can also use your, sense of smell a lot in the kitchen. One other thing I've already done is toasted my sesame seeds, which is for the finish. And, as they're toasting, you can smell them when they're starting to be toasted and be done. So it's good to use your nose.
Okay. And
all right, that's looking pretty good. I'm going to give it a little taste.
We always tell people have your tasting spoons available. How is that?
It's good. It needs a little more salt.
I knew you'd say that. Yeah. She likes
right. And it's pretty garlicky. I did add a lot of garlic. I could but I can taste the lemon.
That's where someone can modify it if their partner doesn't like a lot of garlic. We like garlic, good medicinal qualities. That's okay. So we squirt it in. And what did you just
More
add?
olive oil, and you're just trying to find the balance.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to accept the recipe exactly as written. You can modify it as you like for your taste.
And I think what happens is we've used a lot of different tahini dressings. Then our patients start using it as salad dressing. We're like, hey, wasn't it easy? You can make your own dressing. Okay, take a look at the broccoli, Angela.
Okay.
Because we're at about 42 minutes. So yeah, see where you're at.
Yeah, this is looking good. So you can see the broccoli here.
Beautiful. I love that it's brown. Yeah.
Yep. And you're losing volume, right? So it's shrinking as it's roasting.
Yes. So that's why I always say buy big heads of cauliflower and broccoli. They do get a little smaller. So does cabbage when you roast it, when that moisture is gone.
My quinoa is looking pretty good. So now we just have to do the finishing steps, which is the green onion and cilantro.
Okay. Do you have those chopped up, or are you going to get those ready?
I'm going to chop those pretty quickly.
Okay. So green onions hold up. That's a nice staple. But let's say you didn't have green onions and someone wanted to chop up some red onions. That would work fine, right? We could do that. Or if they had some, pickled red onions or something, they could swap it out. The toasted sesame seeds just has a really nice little flavor and finisher. And I think it's those little extras that you put on that really make it kind of fun and makes it seem a little more special.
And I did already wash these both under some warm water, some water, cold water. So I know they're clean. I wouldn't just, I'd always give them a rinse. And then I've got my toasted sesame seeds here. So I've got all three of my finishing, and I'm going to put the bowl together. And then we're going to move to Judy's talk.
Okay. And you've pulled everything out of the oven. Your quinoa is ready. And tell us how you're going to put it together. What are the steps? We have it on our recipe, but what's a nice way to build a bowl?
So to build a bowl, I am first going to take, I'm over at my refrigerator right now. I've got my lettuce here. And I'm going to take a handful of lettuce. I like lettuce to fill about half my bowl. So generous amount of lettuce. You can use a cup, you can use whatever you want, but basically about half the bowl. And then I'm going to put some quinoa on 1/4 of the bowl.
Okay, and when you come back to the cutting board, can you move it over so we can see the whole bowl? Or is that just your bowl of lettuce? Is that your bowl of lettuce? Oh, okay. Yeah, we want to see the whole bowl. Yeah, move it over a little bit. Perfect. Okay, perfect. Okay, here we go. Let's build it.
Okay. So we've got our quinoa going in.
And here's where you can personalize it, right? Depending how hungry you are, One partner might be hungrier than the other when you're building it.
I love tongs. We have lots of tongs that we use. So then I'm going to grab some of the tempeh.
Oh, nice.
And some of the roasted broccoli here.
Looks amazing. I could see the smoke from the quinoa. I wish I could.
Yeah.
It looks so good.
And then we're going to lay in the raw ingredients.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got our purple
Beautiful cabbage.
cabbage
Nice.
and our carrots.
Oh, that looks luscious.
And the radishes.
And when we talk about eating the rainbow, Angela, you get an A+.
Yeah,
all
we
the
get
colors of the rainbow on there. It looks amazing.
all our servings of fruits and vegetables today, right?
Well, all the veggies.
All
And
the veggies here.
we were talking about, we're actually using this for a class in a few weeks, and we're going to do a watermelon salad, a watermelon mint salad. Oh, that looks amazing.
So you just drizzle that on, and then you can put your toppers on. You know, you can leave off the cilantro for somebody who doesn't like cilantro.
Oh, that looks
Yeah, this would be
amazing.
great if you guys want to make this for a lunch or a dinner, and then some of the toasted sesame seeds on top.
Fantastic.
And that's it.
Okay, ASRM.
You guys,
this is like the Food Network. Oh yeah, bring a
yeah.
little beautiful. Okay.
So that's it. Yeah. So now, yeah, go ahead and switch off my two cameras, and Judy's going to give her slides.
Okay, thanks. I just have a few slides that I want to wrap up and show you what Dr. Sire and I have been doing for the last 10 years. So we started back in about 2012, food for fertility group classes. We were working with all these amazing patients, and we kept thinking, wow, I think it would be so cool to bring them together and work in a group. And the response has been overwhelming. This was a group from a few years ago. And you can see on the right, they were graduating, and they made their salads in a jar, layers of beans and veggies and homemade dressings and fun stuff like that. And we wanted to show you, as we did today, the physician, the dietitian can be the cook and the instructor with some training. And we have learned on the fly. So these classes started back in 2012. And what we had originally designed them for was we were getting so many referrals from women who had higher BMIs, and we wanted to help them with being able to participate in art or have better outcomes. So each woman actually met with me, the registered dietitian, to have first an individual consult. And we wanted to make sure that these classes were interactive, that we were going to be focusing on hands-on skills, cooking, meal planning strategies, intuitive eating, that this is what they would be spending their 90 minutes on 6 to 7 Saturday mornings in a row. And afterwards, we always took a 30-minute walk. Rain or shine, we did it. Okay, so who were the participants? Who are the participants? Women with PCOS, prediabetes, any type of diabetes, history of chronic dieting, elevated BMIs over the clinic guidelines for art, women who had recurrent pregnancy loss, diminished ovarian reserve, women who had poor response from cycles, and just women who wanted to optimize their nutrition and were trying to conceive. And so the goals of the program were to provide a comfortable and safe peer group setting for women on the fertility journey. And when we started, this was basically the staff room at Angela's clinic, which they let us use on Saturdays. And it's amazing where you can set up a kitchen. And we use that for several years. Share the expert advice on nutrition for conception and pregnancy. It was lentil day when I was wearing my lentil shirt in the staff room. And then on the right, Angela and I did a pop-up at a Bastille kitchen. And that one we did for couples. So although our main program has been for women, we definitely want to include men. So what kind of topics do we talk about? The role of nutrition. We talk about healthy grains, yogurts, greens and vegetables, lentils, legumes, pulses, fish and plant proteins, dining out, meal prep, movement, and intuitive and mindful eating. We wanted to provide and do provide exposure to new foods and movements. Some people have only eaten rice, potatoes, and noodles, and we really wanted to show them all the wonderful foods that were out there that could really promote health. I can see those aren't French fries in that picture. Those are roasted parsnips and carrots, which were delicious. We offer experiential learning to increase self-efficacy and confidence. And you can see women making, I think the one on the right was actually a veggie pad thai that we made. Each week, our women, whether it's virtual or live, set their own individual goals in food challenges. Maybe it's meal planning, maybe it's trying a new whole grain. They get to decide, and then between sessions, I check in with them and coach them to see how they're doing. It's very important in these classes that we avoid all weight stigma and bias. We are against diet culture. We want to help women work on loving their bodies, health at every size, and preparing them for fertility. With movement, it's best to actually do the movement. So we've had trainers, yoga instructors come in, teach our women with resistance bands, easy things they can do at home or in a comfortable setting. And then really lucky to be right by South Lake Union, where we get to take a walk. Here you can see more cooking and prepping. We're making an oatmeal. I think on the left, it was an oatmeal berry lentil bake, which was delicious. In the middle was a quinoa kale quiche, and on the right was one of our many delicious salads that we like to make. And then came COVID, boom, at the end of a class. So we quickly had to transition to virtual teaching during COVID-19 from our home kitchens. Hopefully we've gotten our lighting a little bit better. And we've run 2 series and 2 or 3 pop-ups, and here was some of the positive things. Participants could now join from a larger geographical area. We had women from Idaho and Alaska. We sent out the recipes at least a week or more before class. We provide a virtual link, and we really try to feature new seasonal recipes that have been developed and tested. And trust me, you need to practice, because if you don't, your timing can be pretty challenging. You forget an ingredient. So here's kind of what it looks like behind the scenes in my kitchen. I think we were making a Buddha bowl. That was our first pop-up that we were doing, just using, my laptop and some lighting. And then what happens is our patients start Instagramming and sending the pictures. On the left is a blueberry baked oatmeal, and on the, whoops, sorry about that. And on the right was, it looks like a Buddha bowl that we had made in class. And let's keep going here. So in conclusion, I know I went through this pretty quick. We wanted to share with you specific nutrition and lifestyle small group programs can improve women's, and I'm sure men's health. And we used to have the men come for a last session brunch. We've kind of gone away from that, but they are invited to the pop-up. And the feedback we've gotten from the women is they really like being with women. So we want to give them, that opportunity, and helping them with these sessions to better eating and health in preparation for their fertility treatments. These same interventions set the stage for a healthier pregnancy. So we have found this to be very successful. We're doing our best in the virtual world to continue to do these kind of cooking classes. And people do enjoy doing them out of their kitchens. And I just got an email from a patient today who shared all her labs to show me that not only had she lost weight and feel better, but all of her metabolic labs had improved since she took the class in April, and how excited she was. So we took up a lot of time, but it takes little time when you're cooking. But we do have time for some question and answers. So I'm going to stop. Whoops, I think I'm going to show this last slide, which is just the ASRM thank you. But I'm going to stop the screen sharing so I can see if there are any questions on chat, or you can either put them in chat, or if you do want to unmute yourself and everybody is yelling, we could also take some live, take any live questions if there's anyone who has a question for us.
And Sarah, you could put my regular first camera on again.
Okay, so you can put them in the chat, or if you have a question, you should have received the recipe, and I hope some of you will enjoy that. We have a couple of minutes to be able to answer questions, or we have our email on the last.
Nice thing, this is the nice thing about live video, right? That we also face in our classes is, oh, Sarah, the other, oh wait, hold on, you're on the right one. I have to switch this over. But interruptions,
Phone calls.
It's fun. You know, we use
It's real
humor,
life.
you know, right. It's real life. We're in our own kitchens. There can be things don't always go perfectly, but they usually taste really good anyway, as we've heard from all the participants. And if they have partners and they're sharing these meals and they're sharing recipes with coworkers. So we've gotten just amazing positive feedback with people loving to know what to eat, how to cook it, feeling like they can develop these skills and move forward with them successfully, and they stick with it. They take more classes, they cook with their families. Judy continues to stay in touch with a lot of these patients.
Through their pregnancies, through their second pregnancies. And it's really fun at the end of class. People love to hold up their dishes, and usually they can't wait. They want to eat them because they're so good. So that's a lot of fun. Oh, Tamara, why did the Pro-Fertility Diet not include legumes? Did it not?
I think legumes, it just wasn't one to my knowledge, but I can look back at that study. I don't think it was one of the ones that was specifically highlighted, but I'm sure it did. I don't think it excluded legumes.
Right.
But
I think
yeah.
what it did, it took the Mediterranean diet and then they found additional things like the vitamin D and like the B12. So no. Legumes are great. We're all for legumes.
Right.
People eat legumes in our class or lentils, or sometimes they're really nervous about it. And then they try them like, oh, they're actually really good. So we really try to take a fresh, current, easy approach and just getting, wonderful feedback from our patients. But feel free if you want to email any questions about our experiences with setting this up. It's a lot of fun. You can always start small with maybe your staff if you want to practice. You're kind of nervous with patients. We do a lot of lunch and learn, so we get to practice on people or with your family. But it's really a great tool that you can offer to your patients.
And thank you all for coming today. We really appreciate it. It's kind of a middle of the afternoon, not the most common time people are cooking, but hopefully you'll take the recipe and try it at home later.
Thanks. And thanks so much for spending time with us today in our kitchens. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judy and Angela, for presenting such a fun and fantastic, I'd say a simple recipe. And thank you to our attendees for joining us. This session was recorded and will be available on our website in the near future. So please watch your email for notification about future webinars. I did drop a copy of the recipe in the chat window. In case you missed that, a copy of the recipe will be sent to all attendees along with a survey to help us serve you better. So for any further questions or comments, please don't hesitate to contact us at webinars@asrm.org. And this concludes the webinar. Thank you.